Hello everyone, Matt here. Since the ranked season 2 is closing in, I decided to cover 10 best tips on improving in Dirty Bump. Tip number 1. Know the meta. If you're on the attacking side, you should pick one main DPS, which should be Fragger or Thunder. For the secondary DPS or the fire support, pick Nader, or other player killing oriented fire support such as Kira, Arty or Skyhammer. All snipers could work too. For the main medic, pick Aura or Summons, and for the secondary one, pick Sparks or Phoenix. You should always pick one engineer. If you're on the defending side on the EV maps, pick one main DPS, which should be Fragger or Thunder. For the secondary DPS, pick fire support or Nader. All snipers should work too. For the main medic, pick Aura or Summons. For the secondary one, Sparks or Phoenix, and be sure to pick one main fire support, which should be Arty or Skyhammer. They mainly exist for taking out the EV and providing ammo. If you're on the defending side on C4 maps, you should take one main DPS, which should be again either Fragger or Thunder. For the secondary DPS, pick Nader or Rhino or all snipers. Sometimes fire supports can work too, but they are less recommended on maps like Underground. For the main medic, you should pick Aura or Sawbones. For the secondary one, Sparks or Phoenix, and be sure to pick one engineer to disarm the C4. I picked this meta from a comment on Reddit, so be sure to check that out. I'll put the link in the description. Tip number 2. Friendly fire is turned on. Be aware that even if the name of this sounds friendly, it is not, so make sure to never shoot at your teammates. Also, all weapons with splash damage will damage both friendly and enemy players, so make sure to not damage your teammates and destroy your team's deployables. Keep in mind that player disadvantage in 5v5 matches is huge. With friendly fire comes team collision, so please don't block people trying to retreat. Thank you. Tip number 3. Use voice chat if possible. If you can get your point across with quick chat, use it. By default it can be accessed by the wiki. Make sure to listen to other callouts and quick chats. Make them as short as possible and try to tell only important information. Of course, you can motivate the team and tell jokes to each other, but make sure to keep that at the minimum and to do that only if it doesn't distract you and the rest of the team. Tip number 4. Learn callouts. This can be very useful, and there are a few images on the internet that can help you with that. You can also find the callouts on bottom left corner of the screen. If you don't know them, at least try to make them up yourself, but be sure that they are clear and that they don't confuse your team. I'll put you a link in the description for some sample callouts that can help you. Tip number 5. Know your role. If you're playing medic, throw medpacks and revive, mechanics should repair and plant, and fire supports destroy what they can. Assault main role is to kill, but as I mentioned before, splash damage damages your own team too, so keep that in mind. You also have recons. Spot enemies if you really like Phantom and can make proper use of him, be sure to uncloak when near friendly deployables, since they get the EMP just as well. Find out which roles suit you best and practice at them. Tip number 6. Shoot for those heads. It's a very basic tip, but too important to not include it. Always look at the head level. I can't tell you how many times I see people staring at walls and floor when walking around and they end up losing a 1v1 because the enemy was getting headshots and they were looking at their legs. Also be sure to aim down sights only if it's 100% necessary. Hipfire is accurate enough for both short, medium and long range. Also taking higher ground can help you at hitting more headshots. Tip number 7. Know your enemy. Adjust to the enemy's composition and try to choose mercs that counter theirs. With this one comes the next tip, which is tip number 8. Know which mercs to prioritize to increase the man and firepower advantage. If the enemy has only one medic, focus them. You'll realize how quickly a team can die without it. If they have two, just kill both. Tip number 9. Work with your team. As I stated before, communication is one of the most important factors that can win you team fights and leave enemies in disadvantage. Defend choke points and attack together. Every map has certain choke points that help defenders well. Defend. These are where enemies usually group together and can be held back for longer periods of time. Be sure to never overextend, since going too far into them will lead to a certain death. For the attacker side, I'd recommend working as a team. Know when the enemies use their abilities and attack when it hurts the most. Sometimes the only one push can represent the difference between victory and defeat. Tip number 10. Learn how the spawn timers work. Currently, respawn waves happen every 25 seconds and are synced with the enemy team. That way you'll know whether a whole enemy team will flood the battlefield or whether you still have time to do some setup with deployables and other support abilities that can be cancelled when engaged in a fight. You can also use the suicide button, which is K by default, in order to respawn with your team as a whole. It's also useful to do that if you want to change mercs, but don't want to wait for the enemy team to kill you. Also, one useful tip would be to never engage with just a few seconds left on the timer. It's very likely that you'll die just after the respawn timer resets and you'll get a long spawn. This is just a small portion of what you can do with spawn timers, but if you want to get more advanced with that, be sure to check out this video. I'll put the link in the description. An honorable mention would be to never stop moving. A stationary target is a dead target, so keep that in mind. You can check my other videos on useful jumps on each map after a MoFo update, as it can help you become a 3D player instead of just 2D. These were 10 tips on how to get better at rank in the next season. Of course, you have to practice, but tips can and will help you to widen your knowledge on how to deal with different situations in a game. There is one more tip that I like to give you, and I have learned from my matches at the Art of Warfare, and that would be to keep shooting at the red team. You can't go wrong with this one, so I thought it would be worth mentioning here. So thank you so much for watching, I hope these tips really help you improve. Like if you enjoyed, comment for suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. This has been Matt, have a wonderful day. Peace out.